the overlay on. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everybody. I hope you're having a great day. This is a special Throwback Thursday. Normally, we try and pick out names, situations, memories, walk down memory lane, and things like that. I thought this Throwback Thursday would be kind of cool if I kind of revisited some of the intellectuals. I like to say some of the intellectual giants that affected me when I was younger, that made me think differently about how I saw the world. And in some regards, I even challenged the way they thought. So the overlay that you saw when you first came on was no one other than the intellectual giant W.E.B. Du Bois. Of course, first black man to get a doctorate from Harvard, school teacher, man after my own heart, but a deep, deep thinking intellectual. Our title today is The Economy of Knowing Your Community. And the basis for me talking about the economy of knowing your community is a book that Mr. Du Bois put out years ago called The Souls of Black Folk. Now, he had an intellectual rival, if you will. I guess I can call him a rival. And that person was, of course, Booker T. Washington. Now, there was, of course, a tug of war between the intellectual capacity of the two, where one thought that segregation is something that should be fought against. And in some regards, people say that, of course, Booker T. Washington was accommodationist to segregation. But as I move out of myself, I say I expand my horizons. I understand that I was a young black man, not totally understanding the rigors of being a black man in the late 1800s, early 1900s, that I was speaking from a point of privilege, if you will. Engaging an argument that I didn't fully understand because I had the privilege of being able to go to schools. I wanted to go to private schools, college, and the like. The idea of Du Bois telling the 10th, of course, upset me because it was elitism. I used to yell and scream in our little coffee house discussions. But I began to understand a little bit more what the brother was talking about. And what he was talking about was the economy of knowing your community. My brothers and sisters, the subject matter I'm going to talk about is special. It's special because we've kind of forgotten how special people like W.E.B. Du Bois was and Booker T. Washington was. I mean, the inventors of the time, because they're doing it against a backdrop, but they're not supposed to be able to think this way. Some of the marvels of coming out of slavery were things like the Freedmen's Bureau. While it didn't really, free the black man from racism, nothing ever has, it did create schools. It did create schools and respites where people could learn skills and talents and learn about themselves outside of what was given to them, outside of what was shared with them. So, brothers and sisters, I want to take a little bit of time on this Throwback Thursday to go back to the time of our black intellectual at the turn of the century and add a little bit, brothers and sisters, and try to explain a little bit, brothers and sisters, because I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of trying to interpret everything they said. Even now, I'm 54 years old. If I'm talking about Du Bois, I'm still very much a child talking about a man's thoughts. The same thing with Booker T. Washington. A child talking about a man's thoughts. And the maturity that comes about is that they've left us a legacy of what the times were and what the intellectual capacity was required to deal with those times. So, for lack of a better word, I want to go ahead and get the show started. I thank you for tuning in. Today's topic, again, the economy of knowing your community. Welcome to the ShOUT Show. Let's get it rolling. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh, everybody. Do you know who I am? I'm Preacher Moss, comedian extraordinaire. However, this Labor Day, I won't be that guy. You know who I'll be? Mr. Isna. That's right. We're celebrating the 2021 Isna Virtual Conference going down on Labor Day, brothers and sisters. We got speakers, we got entertainment. All we need is you. It's going to be like a big old pot of gumbo. We just need to put you in there. So listen. Don't wait. Don't even worry about registration because it's free. Make sure that you're going to be there on the 4th and the 5th. I'll be looking for you virtually. And believe me, I understand what you're thinking of. You're looking at the screen going, this is going to be an incredible conference. But my goodness, Preacher Moss, that's one good-looking Muslim. See you there. All right, brothers. Just, we have to have a little fun. Want to give a shout out for everybody. This man, all hands on deck. We have the ISNA Virtual Conference 2021. We had it last year, 2020. Again, we're fighting against COVID, but we're hoping, inshallah, that this will be the last one that will be virtual. And 2022, we'll be able to get all the family together in Chicago and, get together and celebrate and be in each other's spaces safely for 2022. And I want to give a shout out for all the people that helped put that ad together. Sister Magda, Brother Bashar, Brother Asar, Aziz, and our own Sister Satana Whitfield, who's helping out on that situation. So, make sure you guys check it out. So you'll be seeing some more ads coming up. And don't sleep. It's free this year, brothers and sisters. Free. That's like free 99. That is FREE, as in no error. That's it. FREE. So make sure you check it out. So let me give you guys a little hip on this game about knowing your community. One thing I didn't know, and I began to, I always run these simulations in my mind about community. I realized that, as I got older and older, I knew less and less about the community around me. When I was young, it was interesting because I knew communities. At my grandfather's neighborhood, I knew my grandfather, I knew the Washingtons, I knew the Gibsons, I knew the Turnages, I knew Big Phyllis, I knew Bim, Miss Naomi, I knew Miss Hill. I'm going on and on about all these people. Grandma Dog, I knew all these people. Diddy Bop, Mr. Friedman, Smooth. I knew all these people in a community atmosphere. Mr. True, who owned the dry cleaner, True. I understand. In my own neighborhood, brothers and sisters, I understood Mr. Brown, Mr. Alexander, the Grants, the Austins, the Lowe's, the Francis, the Pollards. We knew all of these people, the Sclaffords, on and on and on and on and on. We knew all these people. And I began to understand, and I woke up one day and I said, man, I was in my mother's neighborhood, and I was like, I don't really recognize any of the new neighbors. I don't recognize any of the neighbors. I started thinking back to where places I lived, and I was like, I really didn't know my neighbors. It was very, cordial, but it was never really an investment about finding out who they are. And I realized part of it has to do with the environment in which you come to know your neighbors. I'm going to get to that in a moment. But the environment of how you come to know your neighbors. If you want to know clearly what the ShOUT show is, this is a community show. There's no barrier entry to get on. We allow people to come on. We invite them to come on. We put their thoughts on the screen. We give them shout outs. When any of our members are sick in our community, we tell them that we wish them well. We make the dua for them. And it really is representative of the old community, if you will, the very old community that I grew up with, where everybody knew the neighbors and neighbors' kids and things like that. And I began to ask that question, why is that? Hold that thought, because I want to make sure before I get deep into this conversation that I invite the community. So if you're coming to the ShOUT Show community for the first time, welcome. We appreciate you. Certain things you can do to help our community out. You can click subscribe, share, notification, like button if you get a chance. But more importantly, we want you to come and engage and understand that you are amongst friends and family. We're not here to judge you. We're not here to get judged. You know what I'm saying? So I'm welcoming you with a sense of communal pride and a sense of communal joy. That's the first two things. Other thing is, if you have something to say, opinions are welcome. We want your opinions. Get in the comment section. Sister Satana will try and get everything up, and we'll work with it. Okay, we will definitely work with it. This is, like I said, this is a community expression. That's the three things I wanted to say. Now the next thing is I want to invite my community. I always call them the Shout Out Show family, the Shout Out Show soldiers, but they are a part of community. So brothers and sisters, forgive me if I've been saying soldiers and family. I need to say community because we are a community. After a year, we've been through a lot of things. So let me welcome you to the show. So first up, let's get our community out here. Our Shout Out Show community. We got him. We got Sister Ree. Sister Ree, how you doing? We hope you're doing well. I hope you recovered. I mean, you had a big weekend last weekend, but like I said, your body has rights. So make sure you get your rest because you're gonna be out there again. Make sure, brothers and sisters, you check Sister Ree out at the International Market. I think it's was it 239 Green Road, and that's gonna be in Houston, Texas. Make sure she's gonna be there from 11 to 7. We got to get a price list for you, Reed, because she has some dynamite baked spaghetti, chicken and turkey, ground turkey, regular salad, chef salad. She's got a whole lot of stuff you want to make sure. She's got a 7-Up sponge cake. Whatever you got a taste for, she can cook it. So shout out to you, Reed. Next up, and this guy right here, Johnny L. Thomas, better known as JT, my little brother. And I'm not even gonna lie, I hung out with my little brother today. We were kicking it around Milwaukee. Took me to go get a hat because I forgot my hat for this interview I have to do on Monday. It was good to see JT. It was good to see shout out to my nephew Jordan, who's getting big, going into his junior year. Shout out to Justin. Shout out to Ray and the Thomas family here and in Texas and all around. You know what? It was good to see JT and have this conversation. I think JT, I thought about this specific topic. It had been on my mind because I've been kind of beating around the bush in regards to talking about community. And I realized, how important it is to understand, engage your community, but also, for lack of a better word, you have to know your community. And the spark for this comes from reading some random notes I've written about W.E.B. Du Bois when I was young, foolhardy and stubborn about this man. And then I looked at life and I understood that what he was talking about was not just for today, it was for people like myself. Almost like you take a message, you put it in a bottle, and it's a time capsule. And when you open it up this particular time, it says what needs to be said at that time. You wouldn't have understood it early on. So, thank you, JT, for coming on the show. Next up, we got Sister Rabina Chowdhury. Sister, so good to see you on the show. We'll always enjoy your presence. Make sure you stay out of that Facebook jail, sister. You've been putting some comments out there, but I appreciate you always and your family. You can come whenever you want to. You like the good relative, bad relative. You come in the refrigerator, eat all the food you want to. Don't put anything back in it. We're not going to be mad because you're family. All right? Good to see you, Sister Rabina. And yes, there was some good information on Afghanistan. I've been talking about that a little bit. I think we're going to revisit that a little bit more because I think it requires a little bit of a surgical touch on it. So I think we're going to do that. All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Sister Rabina in the house. Next up, my man, Altaf Rashid. I think Altaf is going to like this topic. We're going to be talking about, understanding that aspect of community. We're going to put it out here. And I'm going to take us back. This is a Throwback Thursday. I'm going to take it back to where this all begins, brothers and sisters. And in taking it back to where it begins, I'm probably going to reveal where I made mistakes, where I overlooked some things, and I undervalued some things. So I'm going to ask everybody to stick with me on that. Next up. Oh, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you too, Altaf. Next up, we got Sister Satana working her back. Sister Satana, thank you so much for working her back. We feel free to jump in on this. I think we've been deprived of Sister Satana's presence in front of the camera, brothers and sisters. So I would encourage her to make sure she's getting back in front of her. We appreciate you in the back. Yes, but we want to make sure that you come up and you get your shine, because this is, again, knowing your community. So again, the title, brothers and sisters, is The Economy of Knowing Your Community. Let me tell you about Du Bois first and Booker T. Washington. I call these gentlemen intellectual giants because they are the first to talk about, in a meaningful way, in a gainful way, the valuation of Black people coming out of slavery. This topic, I don't know, I don't even know how it comes out of their mouth. The advancements of African Americans out of slavery were amazing anyway. The Freedmen's Bureau established, for lack of a better word, schools and universities. So let me put this out here first. Some of the first early communities in the Black community consist of two things: education and the church. Education and the church, which would be schools and the churches. The economy of those aspects of the community allows people to build skills. It allows people to build skills, and it gives them a religious foundation to somehow rise above all the things they're going to deal with. Okay, I can't imagine the level, and we talk about mental health. I can't imagine the scope of mental health issues that were bound by people coming out of abject slavery into abject poverty. Every notion says that you quit, and if you quit, it'd be okay, because no one expected anything out of it. If you quit, the people that oppress you would be happy. If you go forward, you are going forward fully understanding you don't know what the future holds. Therefore, you have to frame it for yourself. Therefore, education is a very open-ended question, very open-ended activity, but it's tied to religion. It's tied to religious dogma that gives Black people, in this regard, spiritual roots. You see, the early reading or the early literacy for African Americans is not necessarily Bible, and not necessarily just the Bible. It's Negro spirituals. Not the written word on a piece of paper, it's written word on your heart. It was the thing that gives you a psychological imperative that you can overcome things. And these two gentlemen, but I'm going to speak about Du Bois and his book, Souls of Black Folks, because I began to understand that he had a vision for the upliftment of Black people. And the upliftment of Black people becomes the blueprint for anyone else that comes in this country after African Americans are free. Chinese, Latin Mexicans in the 30s, and so on and so on and so on. Everybody benefits from this blueprint. Now you have to understand, education is not available to everybody. Meaning that you have people who were tenant farmers or sharecroppers who spent their every waking moment basically working land that they didn't own, and the produce will be given, and they'd be given a mere pittance if they got anything. Sometimes they even owed. Imagine that you understand that is your end, but that you show up everywhere. You show up anyway, to develop a pattern whereby the people coming behind you look and say, that's not what I want to do. They can't stop it because they don't have the tools at this point in time. The chips don't lie in their favor. The cards don't lie in their favor. However, they're giving us breadcrumbs that up to this point, they were successful. Going past this point, it was problematic. They're telling us, stop at this point and come up with a new modality for what you want to do. The economy of knowing your community, brothers and sisters, is that community can grow together. And it can be diverse. A lot of people give Booker T. Washington a difficult time because they say he accepted segregation. He accepted segregation. And they say, and accepting segregation at that time meant that Black people were relegated to thinking that compared to white people, that they were inferior. Let me proffer this. Maybe it was intelligence. Maybe not being close to these people who oppressed you allowed you to build these schools, allowed you to develop your own curriculum for education, not just reading, writing, arithmetic, but talking about government and politics and how you build liberation movements. Maybe Booker T wasn't Booker T. Washington wasn't crazy. Maybe these two guys, brothers and sisters, maybe these two guys are intellectual giants, and I'm sitting here in front of you talking about their philosophies by virtue of the fact they were forward looking, caring, and they did in depth understanding and study of the communities around them. One, uh, Mr. W.E.B. Du Bois, he looked and said black folk could do better. That we should have expectations, that we should have a talented tenth, that out of all the black people, the top tenth of the people are going to go to school and they're going to learn and they're going to make it better for everybody. I thought it was elitist. It was not elitist. It was genius. He originally, after a while, he went back and said he was incorrect about the talented tenth. But I almost pushed myself to say, you know what? At the peril of saying I was wrong, when now you're saying you're wrong, we're both wrong. Because we couldn't see what that meant going forward. You know, we don't talk about it a lot on the show, but you know, one of the most traumatic experiences you'll have in the black community as a child is when you don't go to the same school as your friends. Hear me now. You don't go to the community school. You go to private school. I went to private school. I told you guys that. But you spend first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, arm in arm with your brothers and sisters. But at the same time, you look around and go, oh my gosh, where? And then you wind yourself at another school and you're not shoulder to shoulder with kids that you've been in a fight with. And I've never really thought in a long form, I really never really thought out this whole idea that these kids sometimes look and say, man, why can't I go to private school? And that's where it breaks down. And this is, you know, my parents' decisions for my education at that age are what they were. I couldn't see what I needed. They saw what I needed. They conferred with my teachers, and this is the decision they made. And even when I got into the ninth grade, I could have said I don't want to go here, but I was already in the system. I don't question their intelligence. I don't question their wisdom. And for W.B. Du Bois, I love your wisdom. I love your intelligence. I love the fact that you were forward thinking when people weren't thinking at all. Dig this, brothers and sisters. He's an intellectual when people think that black folk can't spell the word CAT to go vote. And now the economy is broken. The two aspects of community life, if you will, are all in a shambles. Think about it. The education system is in a shambles, and the church isn't what it used to be. The Baptist church, the Protestant church, the community mosque, black or otherwise, is not what it used to be. And my question is, can we get it back to that? You know, can we get back to a space whereby we're not just having community strength and the economy? When I talk about economy, I don't think people know the power it is to know your neighbor, to know your neighbor's narrative. That my parents could say, hey, Mr. Francis's people come from so-and-so, and Mr. Brown, well, my folks from South Boston, and it was interesting and to watch my mom and Mr. Brown and just everything unravel about my mom and Mr. Brown. They both from the state of Virginia. and they knew certain things and they had certain experiences. And then my neighbor next door, across the street, Mr. Alexander, and what that experience was. And that there was that level that was there, and then the children came. I honestly believe the community is what made our school strong, and I felt like it made our education strong. The narrative was a lot more direct. It was not some mundane issue. It was direct. Do you know how powerful it is to see legions and legions of children going to school with expectations that they're going to be taught that day? And then on Sunday, you would see legions and legions of people going to church with expectations that they were going to be inspired and in some cases healed. Hear what I'm saying, brothers and sisters, because it's special. We had a show a little bit way back, and I talked about historically black colleges and universities. And I regret, openly, I regret that I just didn't say more about how special those communities were. Think about all the negativity about the black community. Think of all the negativity about the black community, all the stereotypes. And yet, some of the top schools in the United States are black colleges and universities, turning out doctors, lawyers, intellectuals, teachers, athletes, world-class status. And here I am talking, I'm dancing around. I'm like, what is it about him? And it eluded me. And I realized that it has created and endeared a specific type of community. One of the fun things for me as a member of the WD community and of course, supporter of the NOI, you know what's interesting sometimes when I take people with me who are not part of the WD Muhammad community or the NOI, particularly Muslims, and I let them hang out and I let them kind of enmesh themselves in that community, if you will, to get a taste, to get a flavor, if you will. And it's funny because in the end, they say, man, those people really warm. And they, man, I like, and I'm like, yeah, that's that community. That's that community, brothers and sisters. So as I begin to wrap up, I'm going to ask everybody to assess the economy of your community. The people that you know across the street, do you know them? The people that live down the street, do you know them? The people who come to the park, do you know them? There was a time when I go to a basketball court, I knew everybody's going to be there. I went to a tennis court, I knew everybody's going to be there. We're going to play football. It was just a matter of where we're going to play it. Not who we're going to play, it was just where we're going to play, because as long as it was another community, we all invested. Communities are protective. Communities embellish specific aspects of values and esprit de corps that are so transformative that it affects people, even like me, up to this point. So as a close, let me again say sorry, thank you, and I appreciate you to W.E.B. Du Bois on my Throwback Thursday. And I openly say that I was a boy trying to interpret a man's thoughts, who was going through things that I would never, ever experience in my life. I would never experience racism like you experienced. I would never experience the idea of trying to teach children an oppressive system like you did. I would never have the audacity to write a book to inform people about the beauty of their community. I'm not there yet. But pray for me. Maybe I will get there. Let's get to our sponsors, brothers and sisters. I want to give a shout out, of course, to BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Again, that's BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Call 1-888-496-6845. Again, that's 1-888-496-6845. Mama San, I saw your comment. Thank you so much. And listen, if you're thinking about getting a quality graduate level doctoral education about Islamic studies or Islamic leadership, or you're thinking about being a chaplain, please check out Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Go to bayanonline.org. Again, that's bayanonline.org. All right, everybody. Listen, that's our show for today. And I didn't want to be loud or blah, blah, blah. It's just a conversation, because when I talk about certain things and I'm appreciative, I want to make sure that the nuance is not lost on being excited, but the nuance is not lost, but nuance is actually put upon the person that I respect them. And somewhere along the line, I don't know about you, but I'll talk about myself. They made a difference in my life. All right, brothers and sisters, take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hey everybody, this is your brother Preacher Moss. Listen, I hope that you enjoyed your Shout Out Show experience. We'll be back with the next show, the next Shout Out Show. A simple ask before you go, please help your brother out. Click that subscribe button, click that notify button, and I'll see you again on this side of the microphone.